All right, hopefully we are live streaming now. I will make a quick check because things happen out here and I just want to make sure that we're all set here. So we're going to make sure that we're live streaming because it would not be cool not to be live streaming. So forgive me for any delays that we might be having. I am here to go over another episode of House of the Dragon. I'm glad we're getting a bit better at remembering the proper name of the show because you know how that tends to go with us renaming the show whatever you want. But I am glad that we are at this point on episode 3. And it's funny because it feels like we're further along in the season than we actually are. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? And there was another time skip. For those of you, hopefully you've seen it. There's another time skip in this episode because there has to be. Now, I've read the books and I know the background story of this particular stretch of time. However, there are other wonderful YouTube channels that focus heavily on A Song of Ice and Fire as a whole, and you could definitely look up and check out those channels. I mean, there's one channel that spent about 3 hours just talking about the Dance of the Dragons, this particular story within itself, with the details that we got from George, um, who wrote these stories. So let's should I start where I give the episode first? Let me do that so I don't forget. I enjoyed the episode. I did overall enjoy it. It was some great battles there, great work with the dragons and a CGI and everything else. We got two dragons in this episode, two different writers. It was nice to see. It was nice to see sort of the conflicts going on, being fleshed out a bit more, and new problems that have arisen, and how the characters are kind of dealing with each other at this stage of the game. And so it's nice to see that. It's nice to see situations where you can tell this is probably going to be an issue later on. And it was great to actually see that sort of thing too. So um, kudos. The episode was pretty good. I was not particularly disappointed in this episode. Um, of course, there were some things that I thought was a little off with the pacing a little bit. Stuff like I'm like, oh, damn, we're kind of dragging a little bit. But I understand why. They're trying to really establish that this particular is a problem because at this stage of the game, still, King Viserys has Rihanna still as the heir, even though he has a son. So they did another time skip, and it's a couple of years later, and Viserys has married. He has married Hightower's daughter, or the king, his hand's daughter, and she has given birth to a son. Now, just to interact some book knowledge into there or some story knowledge, because a lot of this was short stories. Um, Here's the thing. They have a lot of children together, and they have quite a few sons. So technically, the lords think, okay, the problem with Viserys is over. He has a son. The son is 2 years old, so the son has survived, hasn't died. So they feel that, oh, it's 2 years old now, going on, we 3 years old. Which in this story, the son is turning 3. And so now we're good. We're gonna be good. And she's pregnant again. She's about to give birth and maybe another son. Don't know yet. Well, I know the answer, but whatever. I want to save that for when that baby's here. But they're like, oh, everything's solved. No, he'll name Aegon the king. That's what everyone's waiting for. This is going to be Aegon the king. But that hasn't happened yet, and you see the conflicts of the different characters, them trying to badger the king over and over about, hey, you're gonna, you're gonna have that, you're gonna make that announcement, right? You're gonna make that announcement to say that Aegon's the new heir, and Viserys is very stressed, and you can see more and more about Viserys that's kind of falling apart as in terms of how he rules and when he thinks things are important, and his indecisiveness. and a lot of different things. We also see that he lost well, excuse me, his two fingers on his other hand. Which remember, the last time we saw it was like he had a terrible looking wound that was getting worse and worse and worse on his hand, and the maesters had said they were trying to save the digit. Now, I thought it was only one hand, it was like his pinky, but now you see that he's actually missing these two fingers, which means whatever happened to his hand, it got worse, and they eventually had to cut the hand off. And it looks like it's been that way for a very long time, so it's probably something that happened like 2 years ago, and they cut the fingers off and they, burned it, so it's just a scar. But you see what happened there. All these things, they're preludes that his health will be declining, which it does. So we get that, and we also get our characters back. We see that Prince Damon, and Corlys Valerian, who's technically their cousin, um, they're off to the Stepstones. They've been to Stepstones for like 2, 3 years, and it ain't going well. And we see reports of that, and the king is like not really wanting to deal with it. He's kind of ignoring these issues because that would force him to take action. And this is the thing. Um, this is the king, just to remind you, that is the one that they said, better him been the maester or something else than actually a king, because he wasn't really suited for it. And you see situations that he's just put off and put off and put off, because he doesn't want to be forced to take certain actions that are going to be very painful actions. And the fact that he's being consistently badgered by everyone around him about making certain decisions on who is the who is going to be next after him. And as far as he's concerned, in his mind, it is for the most part going to be Rihanna. And that's what he's kept all the way to the end of the episode. Even when he's being potentially convinced to, maybe it shouldn't be her, I can make the kid. But at the end of the episode, we find out that no, he's certain that it's going to be you, and all sorts of things, because now guess what? She's 17 years old, so she should have been or should be getting ready to be married, right? And you have the political things happen. Well, the princess of the realm is eligible, so everybody's they're throwing their hand in a ring to marry this chick so they can be closer to the Iron Throne. And since she has a brother that's 2 years old, turning 3 in this episode, yeah, this is great. Get her out the way, get some political affiliations down, and it should be all gravy because we have a male heir, even though he has decided not to change any of the lineage of decisions yet. So that's what we see a lot of that conflict in the episode, the strained relationship between the king and the princess, the strained relationship between the queen and the princess, and that relationship, because remember they were kind of she was her handmaiden. She's kind of her handmaiding her friend to be all of a sudden her stepmother and queen above her. So you see that conflict, and Mr. Otto Hightower is all up in his daughter's business, trying to make sure that she does her part in convincing Viserys to, you got a male heir. And you see him he's planting the seeds and like pushing that, even though initially in this case, she's like, well, she would actually, she's like, hey, well, she would actually make a good queen. Like, she initially doesn't really have an issue with it. She's like, well, Rihanna will have she'd be actually be a good queen. So a queen. So why muddy that, even get into a situation no one needs to be in, right? And her father is who he is. It's about politics. This is a Song of Ice and Fire is about the system in which people live. It's about the politics of it, the things that go on and happen. And so that's all part of what goes on in this story. So it's that's we'll see how her attitude changes over time, because it does, and it gets really damn ugly. um I don't want to, well, it's already out there, it's not about spoiling, but her attitude will change. Okay, so we got that. What else we got? Let's see. We got this celebration for this the king's son's name day. And so they're all going out on this hunt, and it's going to be some, they're going to kill the stag and do all this sorts of stuff is going to happen, right? Um, so the king and the princess get into a big ass argument. She goes running off, and of course, who is running behind her because he's kind of like her kind of like a personal guard to her, is the knight that she picked. Um, so he goes after her. And they wind up spending the entire day together. Nothing happens but he will be uh, there'll be some things that go down the line. Probably you'll start seeing a lot more of that pronounced in the fourth episode and further. But also be in mind there will be a few more time skips in this show. So don't worry about that. There will be. Um, I like the way they're handling the time skips actually because it could be jarring. It wasn't as crazy jarring where there's no space and time thing. It's like, yeah, they have to do time skips. They are announcing that there are time skips happening. So, oh, this is 2.5 years later, almost 3 years later after this, and this is what's been going on. They've been pretty good at addressing that as well. I believe one or two or more of the actors will be switching out to kind of reflect that certain people died and people got older in the show that I saw an article. I didn't go into ring it, but that's how they were going to handle certain things. Some of the actresses will be and actors will be switched out, or they're going to die and you're not going to see them anymore. And it's going to like, oh, when I dad was alive. It's going to be one of those throwaway lines like that. So just to let you know, if you're wondering about time skips, there will be another time skip. Now the next one is only going to be a few months because they got to sail from Stepstones back to King's Landing and deal with the consequences there. And we'll see that in episode 4. So just to keep you in line with what's actually going on time wise, that's what's happening. So we get that. We get more, going back to the princess, we have a whole bunch of proposals of marriage. We see the Lannisters have thrown, and you see the Lannisters. I don't even know what the hell his name was, trying to talk to her, and he's very "I'm rich, I'm great" type of stuff, and she ain't feeling it. As we can see, she clearly is not interested in him at all. He's too arrogant, and she's already in her mind saying she's just waiting to be replaced, right? She's waiting to be replaced at this moment. You have no use for me, she says in a private conversation with her father, who says, no, you're still going to be that, and you're still going to be reassuring her that she is still the heir. She's still the one next in line who's going to be after him. And he's telling her, you have to marry, and he's now giving her the choice to pick who she wants to marry. Now, that was some influence from her stepmother, because she said, if you want Rihanna to do something, you got to make her believe it's her idea. Like just pairing her up with somebody saying you're marrying that person is not going to work. You have to make her believe that it's kind of her idea. And so it's kind of, you see him taking that advice. I'm like, all right, if I give her the choice, but here's the thing. He's giving her the choice, but you must find someone that want. And here's the thing: he really loves his daughter. Don't get it wrong. He loves his daughter to death. But he's not the best at making certain decisions, right? And we'll see the consequences of that later on very shortly. Trust me, you will. Because you will. And so it's going to be so many problems and so many things are going to come of this. And then he has his brother he has to deal with, who the Stepstones War is not going good. They're losing. So he just like, you know what? He's indecisive about that shit. Like he don't know what to do. He's like, well, I'm gonna ignore, let my brother and Corlys Valerian, lose, do their shit. And the war's not going good. They're getting fine reports. People making him see, yo, you got to make a decision. And he's still so indecisive. Like he's like, I'm not trying to embarrass my brother, but then I'm not trying to seem weak. And it's just problem after problem after problem after problem compounding on him. So finally, he decides to send a letter to his brother because he's going to send 10,000 ships to help him. And we know how unstable Damon is. Now, Damon, don't get me wrong, the scene, he's badass when it comes to fighting, and like who he is and does what he wants to do. But you can see he's a freaking firecracker. Like he's so mad. He gets so pissed off when they send him that letter. They're losing. The Valerians are not happy. We see Lenore Valerian trying to comes up with a plan. And he say, "Hey, look, if we really want to get a chance to get them out, if we could just get them out the case, we could end this shit. The only way we're going to do it is Damon has to kind of offer himself as bait and put himself in a situation where he will be in mortal danger." And he's trying to come up with something. Kid trying to come up with something, right? Because he's been out there fighting for years too. Um, Whoo, that he you watch the episode, but homeboy beats the crap out of the guard that is sent to deliver this message to Damon. And they had to pull this man off him because he almost kills him. He almost kills him. But yeah, you can see he's a firecracker. Everybody's looking at him like this motherfucker crazy. Because he is. Damon's he's a head case. So, impulsive, that kind of thing. So you see this is going down, and it's doesn't look good. And the thing about Damon is Damon's very prideful. The last thing the whole point of him going and doing this was to prove that he was worthy to be the heir. That he was worthy to be the heir. Now, since the time he's been gone, his brother has remarried. His brother has had a male child, has another child on the way, and this was disinherited. So he's already knocked down the line anyway. And the last thing he needs is his older brother saying, "Hey, I'm gonna help you, little bro, because you need help. You can't handle this." Coming from the king, who people don't think should have been, is not really a good king. So you got that going on. That's and so he gets so incensed. So he does the crazy thing and goes with Sir Lenore's plan. That's of course Valerian's son. Goes with his plan to do this, right? And it's successful. Now he gets hurt, but it's successful. And that's what matters, is that they did it. And what also matters is that Cors Valerian actually, it is in the books or the stories about this. This is when Cors Valerian has a new respect for Damon. And this will be very important in future episodes on how a lot of the story plays out. Um, he has a lot of respect for Damon because of what happened, what he was willing to do and sacrifice for him, or in this campaign that they went on that could destroy both of them. So it's once again nice scenes, interesting scenes, very cool to watch. Um, yeah, very cool to watch scenes. You see, oh, there's another thing I have to talk about real quick before we end this. Um, so when the princess runs off, and of course one of the guards follows her, the one that she picked, um, they kind of stay out all day because she needs some air. Her father had this big ass argument. She's trying to get some air. And so, in her getting some air, they wind up getting attacked. A boar attacks them, and she winds up eventually killing the boar herself. Right, the last end scene of that scene, she kills the boar. The boar is injured, but he still is alive, and so she daggers him. She stabs him to death. The boar and is dead. And the next day they return to camp. She's all screwed up and bloody, and she walks past everybody, and she has the boar that is being dragged behind her that she killed. And what's significant, like everyone's looking at her like, what the hell happened to you? Type stuff, and in shock, and there's a little bit of disgust. But there are people in there that looked at her and then saw the dead boy, was like, oh, I see you, princess. I see you, girl. And let me just explain that one. All day when they were out in the woods hunting, people were hunting for the king. The king did not go out and hunt himself. He basically, what they would do is they would go chase whatever the game was, a stag or whatever. Other people would hunt it, round it up, keep it alive, and tie it down, which you see. And then he would and it was like, okay, king, the the it's here. Meet us at this point. And he would go and then he would just do the final blow. That was hunting. Um, and so that's kind of how it's done. That's kind of how it's done. That's what happened with that. However, when she comes back to camp, having stayed out all night long, covered in blood, and having this big boar being dragged in that's going to be skinned and eaten, people start looking at her differently because while the king was sitting down in the camp just getting drunk, while other people were doing the work, she actually did it. And that's an important scene to see. Like it was literally the difference between the father and the daughter. The father who sits back, he's not usually first to take action. He lets people bring things to him, and then he'll put the final stamp on it or stab at it. Versus she's a go-getter. She went and did it. She also assisted and got herself bloodied. And that was a pivotal scene. That's what they were kind of showing the contrast. Also showing that she's not your regular princess. She's not. You see the look of her potential husband from the Lannisters. He's looking kind of disgusted, like, ugh. Like he's like, I can't. What the fuck? Ooh, you know. Uh, and it's that kind of look. You see the different looks of people. The father, everyone's looking at her differently. She just walks past them to go get cleaned up. And then they go back to King's Landing after that. But it's something just to keep in mind and watch in the episode, just the looks that people have, and that scene where she's killing, and you see that she's willing to get her hands dirty, she's willing to do what is necessary, and that's something that's going to come up more in her difference in her personality versus her dad's, as the series continues. So, that's some of the wrap up things. I did like the episode overall. It was pretty decent. There were some slow parts, but not everything has to be fast paced at all. And it was just so much. For me, it was a lot of anticipation because I knew what was coming, and I wanted to see that. So I want to see that scene when they do the battles and stuff like that, and I want to see the pivotal scene when this happens and see how they decide to direct it. So a lot of it is like a little bit of my excitement in it. Not that it was like so slow and dragging. Um, that it was boring. Not necessarily. I just want to kind of see certain things happen a little quicker than what they did because they were trying to balance out where they were going. And once again, they're filling in a lot of blanks based on the stories that we got. Because, but they're also trying to show us what's happening concurrently in two different places and do it in a good way storytelling wise. So I think they did a decent job at that. So um, it will be good to watch the fourth episode, which is next week, and which we will turn around and we will do this again. So, anyway, if you like these types of videos, make sure you like this video and you subscribe and press the little alert button. So, subscribe and then press the alert button so that you know when we're going to be doing these things. I really do enjoy kind of get my thoughts out, and I hope that if you watch it, you enjoy it too, and you learn some more, and maybe get to check out the episode and geek out about the episode yourself. So, with that being said, I will leave you to it. It is Labor Day still, Labor Day weekend, this Sunday, September the 4th of 2022. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Hopefully, if you have a day off, enjoy it. If not, you're going to work. Have a good day at work. See you guys